So I'm Chloe. I'm the Associate Psychological Practitioner from Occupational Health and Psychology within the Luft Hospitals. And this webinar today is on mental health. If you've got any questions at all throughout the meeting, at the end for Q&A, there's a little chat box. It's kindly presented on the screen with two little question marks. So just feel free to click that and put in your question or comment. So today's webinar overview is an introduction to mental health and explore what that is. Management, some breaking vicious cycle strategies, again some common strategies and support options at the end. So I think it's nice to have a check-in at the beginning of every webinar and bring our attention to the moment, because I'm aware it's Friday, we've probably had a very hectic week, maybe a hectic day. So I'm going to do a progressive muscle relaxation technique with yourselves. So if you feel comfortable in a chair, lying down, wherever you are, maybe put your feet on the ground, feel your back or your body against chair, or if you're lying down. And if you feel comfortable doing so, maybe close your eyes or soften your gaze into the distance. And we're going to do some transitional breaths. So we're going to breathe in 3 in the nose, hold, and breathe out for 2. So you want to breathe in and hold and breathe out through your mouth. Maybe you can sigh as well when you do that to really get it all out of your lungs. So again, breathe in through your nose, hold, and breathe out through your mouth. Now, if you haven't done so already, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. So progressive muscle relaxation is like a body scan. So I'm going to target different areas of your body. And then we're going to breathe in. And as you breathe in, you're going to tighten that area and really tense it and clench it. And you're going to hold for a few seconds. And when I say let go and breathe out, you're going to breathe out and release that area of tension. So let's start with the feet and your toes. So clench nice and tight as comfortable, and breathe in. And hold. And as you breathe out, just release that tension. And again, when you breathe out, you can do a sigh. It helps just get all that air out of the lungs. We're going to move up now to the calf. So breathe in and tighten. Hold. And when you breathe out, just nice and gently release that tension in your calves. And next are your thighs. So you're going to clench and breathe in. And you want to hold a few more seconds and breathe out and release your thighs. And next is your bum, and sometimes we hold quite a lot of tension here. So if you want to hold for maybe 2 breaths. So you want to clench and breathe in. Nice deep breath and hold. And this time when you breathe out, still hold that tension in your bum. And again here, breathe in. And this time when you breathe out, release that tension. And next is your pelvic area and your abdominals. So when you clench and breathe in, it's kind of like sucking your stomach in, and hold. And breathe out and release. Next, we're going to work on your fingers, your hands. So clench your hands into fists as tight as possible and breathe in. And breathe out and let go. Next are your forearms and maybe the top of your arms as well. So breathe in and hold. Squeeze nice and tight. And again, release both your breath and the tension. Now, similar to the bum, your shoulders hold a lot of tension. I know I do. So we're going to really raise your shoulders up to your ears and breathe in. And when you breathe out this time, still keep the tension in your shoulders for a little bit longer. One more time, breathe in with that tension. And now when you breathe out, round your shoulders and drop away from your ears. And next is your jaw and your face. So clench your jaw, frown, scrunch up your face and breathe in. And hold for a few seconds. And when you breathe out, just release that tension from your face, from your jaw, from your neck. And then we're going to take some transitional breaths like we did coming in. So in through your nose. A hold for a few seconds. And breathe out. And really sigh and get that energy out. And breathe in. Last time, hold. And now when you breathe out, maybe open your eyes if you haven't done so already, or refocus your gaze onto this webinar. And hopefully you're feeling a bit more present in the moment. And maybe stretch whatever feels good for you. Maybe move your neck side to side. You might, again, be aware that your shoulders are raised again like mine, so you just round them off. Maybe you move your wrists or your ankles. I suppose it's a nice way of starting this webinar. So I'd like to engage everyone and ask, what is mental health? What does mental health mean to you? It doesn't have to be full-on sentences. It can be some keywords, just whatever comes to mind. There's no judgment. Mental health is very, very broad. So I'm just interested to hear what mental health means to you. So if you could pop that into the chat that we've seen earlier on, the two bubbles, and I'll briefly look over them now. And you don't have to comment if you don't want to. It's a very broad question. If you feel comfortable saying what mental health means to you, and if not, we can move on to an example of what I think mental health can be. So our mental health and well-being involves some aspects like emotional, psychological, and social aspects. It impacts our beliefs, perceptions and interpretations, how we perceive or believe a situation to be or emotions to be, and behaviours, and it contributes to, therefore, then how we deal with those emotions, stress and decision making. So many factors affect your mental health, individualistic characteristics like genetics, family history, life experiences like trauma or abuse, and social and environmental circumstances as well. So social support networks, poverty, things like that. And mental health is very complex and it's experienced differently from one person to the next. So how I experience mental health might be similar or completely different to how you experience it. And having a positive mental health then can be characterised as someone having good coping mechanisms to handle life stress as well, to make meaningful connections and contributions to loved ones or hobbies that they enjoy doing, and make healthy choices in their life. So what does it mean to have poor mental health then? I want to highlight how common poor mental health can be. So this can consist of anxiety, low mood, depression, stress are very, very common. So as you can see, there's a few names dotted around throughout this webinar today. And that's just based on citations of papers that I've looked at to get some statistics, and there'll be a reference page at the very end so you can go off and explore that or investigate a bit further if you're interested in further reading. So there are many things that we can do to manage poor mental health and control it, whatever the circumstance it may be. So again, just to really bring home how common poor mental health is, around 1 in 6 adults have experienced anxiety and or depression alone this past week alone. So it just shows that it's a very normal human response to feeling worried, sad, fed up in a situation. And those situations, again, just like mental health, can be very varied. Moving house can be stressful, so packing up your boxes and then unpacking. A new job, so what's the team going to be like? What are your new tasks and role in that job? And as well as most recently for our NHS staff, was health workers in general is working through COVID. However, it can be difficult to experience poor mental health in the long term and when it starts to disrupt your daily life. So we all experience, like again, I keep on mentioning it, anxiety, depression, stress differently. And they also overlap in symptoms and characteristics. So I wanted to show you this image that I very quickly created, and this isn't all of the symptoms or characteristics of depression, anxiety, and stress. There is many more. I just wanted to highlight some of the key ones. And it may look very overwhelming, and I think it reflects nicely on how we can experience emotions. You know, sometimes they are overlapping, sometimes it is very overwhelming and just quite confusing as well, really. So just to discuss it briefly of what you can see. The characteristics that can undermine all three, so anxiety, depression, and stress, is worry, avoidance, so avoiding the issue that's the cause of this poor mental health. Poor sleep hygiene, so sleeping too much, sleeping too little, and changes in appetite, so maybe again eating too much or eating too little. So let's break it down even further. Some characteristics of anxiety is seeking constant reassurance. So, you know, am I doing this right? Is this okay? That constant reassurance seeking behaviour. And dry mouth is one as well. It's characterised for anxiety. And something that overlaps with stress and anxiety is sweating, shaking, the rumination of thoughts, so constantly overthinking and being able to unwind from that. Stomach churning and skin scratching or picking. I bite my nails usually, so that's another something that I didn't put in. A characteristic of stress, a big one, is being burnt out and being burnout. Something similar between stress and depression is feeling lack of hope, so hopelessness. And depression can be characterised alone by fatigue, lack of enjoyment in people, in hobbies that you used to love, and a general feeling of sadness as well. Now, commonalities between anxiety and depression are lack of energy, so similar to fatigue, but lack of energy, dissociation, so being withdrawn from a situation, from yourself, your thoughts, feelings, emotions, poor self-worth, so feeling worthless, and not being able to concentrate or being able to focus on what a task or an activity, so having poor concentration. So I wanted to present to you some lifestyle management techniques that we can utilise. Now, there's 4 on this page and I think 4 or 3 on the next. And I just wanted to highlight again that this isn't the final. I just feel like these are definitely important towards management, lifestyle management skills, but there could be more that you acknowledge or use in your own time. So you might think, you know, I take really good care of myself, but I still feel ... anxious or depressed or stressed. And I think it's again important to acknowledge that it does take a lot of time and a lot of patience to see a difference. And it may be that you're paying attention in one area, such as self-care, or maybe lack attention or struggling with good nutrition, good intake, or social connectedness. So I wanted to break it down and just present to you some of the areas that you can target. So self-care is a big one. Self-care, I think, doesn't have to look like other people's self-care. So it's, you know, for example, social media is a big influence, in fact, on this. I go on social media and I see people hashtagging self-care, and they've done an hour in the gym and then they've gone out for to socialise with others and then gone for coffee. And for me, sometimes that can be self-care, but on other days, it's probably my worst nightmare. So I think it's to acknowledge that sometimes self-care isn't always the same for you. It could be on different days you prefer different things. So for example, having a nap is a self-care, going for a walk, maybe watching a new podcast, a new television series, or listen to a new podcast. It's essential that you do something that you enjoy, not what you think you should enjoy. You know, I know that I probably should go to the gym because it should make me feel better, but this current moment in time, I wouldn't class that as my self-care today. And that's okay. I think accepting that's okay, because if you don't enjoy it and you force yourself to do it, it's not self-care. You're not benefit from it. Sleep hygiene as well. We've all heard about the benefits of sleep and how it can impact on us. And if you struggle with this, it can be quite detrimental and frustrating. Sometimes I have periods where I can't sleep. And some practical solutions you can do to encourage better sleep hygiene is maybe taking a warm bath before bed with some essential oils. I like to use lavender or chamomile oil. Just make sure it's safe and read the bottle. Before bed just helps stimulate that kind of relaxation. Limit technology and light before sleep. I struggle with this because I can scroll through TikTok for hours. So I think maybe setting an alarm an hour before bed just to say, okay, you know, you've enjoyed your social media, whatever, and now it's time to start winding down, because that light can actually, you know, activate your brain and make it harder to wind down. Using Headspace and Unmind is a good one. That's something that we can touch upon later on, and is also in a resource sheet that I've made. So the resource sheet has some Headspace and Unmind information and some other things that I'll mention throughout. But on Headspace, there's sleep casts that I like to use. So when I struggle going to sleep, my mind just doesn't switch off. So having a simple app to tell a story, which sounds very simple, but it just helps me focus on something else. And my personal favorite is the Cat Marina. So maybe just explore with what you like and what helps you. And some gentle stretches. So again, at the moment, I'm aware that my shoulders are tense, so maybe just notice where you're holding that tension, do some gentle stretches and just get your body physically ready to sleep. And I suppose if you're just struggling to get to sleep, the worst thing to do is to, you know, check your watch. Oh, I've only got an hour before I've got to get up and things like that. That's going to do the opposite of that relaxation. So I suppose maybe just reading a book beforehand to, you know, relax your mind, relax your body, and that might encourage it a little bit more. So exercise doesn't have to be anything vigorous. It could be a gentle walk, gardening, dancing, whatever you enjoy. Moving your body not only decreases that tension in your body, but it also gets your heart rate up, which releases neurochemicals, very important ones that you've probably all heard of, like serotonin. Routine is one I like because I like routine. I like to stick by it. It gives me more control of my life and reduces some emotions of stress for me. And I don't know if you feel the same, but modern life at the moment is very unpredictable, very anxiety inducing. So having that routine helps ground me and provides that anchor of safety in a very unpredictable world. Little tasks or techniques that I like to use is to set an alarm for activities. So maybe waking up the same time every day. The weekend sometimes can vary, and I understand that. So maybe it doesn't have to be the same time, but maybe around about the same time to make it less contrast, I suppose. And maybe setting time for daily chores, you know, straight after work, maybe just do an hour of house cleaning if you know that's an area of stress or anxiety inducing for you. Maybe just set an hour away from that straight after work so then you can relax afterwards. Just makes the situation seem more controllable for you. The last 4 of lifestyle management skills. Reduce smoking and drinking. So we all know the physiological benefits of reducing smoking and drinking, you know, helping improve our lung and liver, but the psychological aspects sometimes are briefly touched upon. So smoking does ease feelings of stress, as nicotine creates that immediate sense of relaxation, but it is very temporary and gives way then to withdrawal. So there's Parrott in 1995 done a study on smokers and non-smokers, and they found that smokers actually have a higher baseline of stress. So say, like, for example, smokers are here for stress levels and non-smokers are down here for non-smokers' stress levels. So it's found that when smokers do have a cigarette or smoke, it brings them down to normal levels where non-smokers are. And obviously when that temporary relief eases and that withdrawal comes in, then it just goes higher. So they may think it actually eases it, but really it just brings them down to where normal baseline of stress levels are. And similarly about alcohol, short-term pleasant effects, you know, make you more social, or it may make you forget things that you want to. But in the morning or later on, it's actually replaced by negative emotions. We know it's a depressant, and when the body processes the alcohol, that's when things come back, you know, hangover or the fear of what did I do last night? I can't remember, you know, did I make a show of myself? I know, you know, things like that pop up. Diet is an interesting one and so wide that I tried to narrow it down so much because we've time limited as well, but it's very interesting, and The research is only being studied the last few decades. So I've tried to put it in a nutshell. So the digestive system has its own nervous system nicknamed our second brain. So you think you've got your second brain, and then it's actually connected to our big brain, our normal brain, via networks of pathways that communicate with each other. And I suppose I just wanted to highlight that. It's funny, I don't know if you felt anxious or stressed or depressed before, and you feel it in your stomach, you feel sick, you feel butterflies, diarrhea and things like that. And that gut brain connection to your big brain is actually one of the explanations for it, because the pathways are so always communicating. And it's actually found that 95% of serotonin is found in the gut. I mentioned serotonin earlier on, and serotonin, in a nutshell, again, is responsible for mood regulation. So reducing depression, anxiety, increasing positive emotions. So as you can imagine, that network is constantly busy. And then consequently, a poor diet, if you have a poor diet consisting of processed foods or high sugar and things like that, which then alter our gut bacteria, which is again essential in regulating that brain chemistry, will then consequently impact our mental health by impacting it negatively. So next is social support, and that can consist of friends, family, peers, online or face-to-face. It's shown, loads of research has shown that lower levels of that social support network is significantly associated with high levels of that anxiety, depression and stress, and loneliness, like another subsection of social support is being associated with depression, anxiety, that perceived stress of what you think is stressful. Again, it's how you perceive it, not how other people perceive it. The hopelessness and fatigue and poor life satisfaction as well. And last but not least, certainly not least, is nature. Extensive research on how nature and green space positively impacts our mental health. So the two references or citations you can see there, so Jimenez and Lietel, they've done a comprehensive literature review of loads of other people that done research on the impact of nature and general well-being. So if you want to look there, they've got loads of interesting findings, but they kind of collated it to show overall outcomes of nature. And they found that exposure in nature and green space has helped to significantly reduce anxiety, that tension, the depression, anger as well as improving physiological stuff such as the blood pressure, sleep as well, relaxation and social engagement. So again, touching upon that social support network and reducing that loneliness and isolation. I think a key area they found why nature actually helps in green space, because it's kind of like that escapism from what's stressing you out, what's making you anxious or depressed, escapism from work or home. It's a big one. So breaking vicious cycles. So what to do when you are feeling very low, very anxious or stressed. Again, this list is only listing a few things that I think could be useful, but I just don't want to overwhelm you, because I think small steps will make bigger change. So targeting and doing little tasks will help then make bigger changes over time. So breaking it down, journaling. So maybe note what you've done throughout the day and how you felt at different times. And I think it's important because it might show a pattern that you might have not noticed when you feel more anxious, or even a certain activity makes you feel more stressed, I guess. Alternatively, if you don't like to write, sometimes I don't like to write too much. I'm more of a visual person, so maybe take a picture and keep like a diary, like a visual diary. And maybe take a picture of like when you last went out, so if you went for coffee. And the next time you feel anxious or you feel like, you're not able to go out, you can just look in that gallery and think, oh, I went last time, and show yourself that you've done it before, give yourself that confidence. Another alternative is just making very small notes, not what went well today, and it kind of is that reflection and gratitude and bringing in positives of the day instead of feeling like the whole day was wiped out because of one bad thing. Second is lists and to-do lists. I like writing loads of lists. I feel like it makes me more productive and breaks down when I'm feeling stressed. So maybe jot down what you need to do and break that down into smaller, even more manageable goals. So a big one for me is when I have a messy room, it really stresses me out. I feel like if I've got a messy room, my mind's a mess. So, sometimes I think, okay, I'm going to clean my room, but that seems like quite a monumental task. So how can I break that down? Well, I need to make my bed. I need to empty the bin, maybe take the dishes from last night down. So things like that, and target them one at a time to slowly chip away from that huge mountain of a task. It really helps. And again, on that is increasing helpful activity. So if you're stressed, low mood or anxious, you feel like you haven't got time to do the things that you loved, or you're just not motivated enough to do it. And I think it's important to list what you previously did like doing and that you've noticed you stopped doing, and target one again individually. So I love reading, but I've noticed I've just not had the time. I've just been fed up, so I haven't been in the mood to do it. So I suppose my aim would be to read a book, but that's again too monumental. So it maybe try reading a chapter a week. And again, you can trial and error it. If you haven't done it, then that's okay. Maybe it was too much of a task. It doesn't mean that you're a failure or you failed it. It just means it was too much too soon. So maybe break that down even further and say, okay, I'll do a paragraph a week or even fortnightly, and just trial and error and see how you go with that. Worry time is a good one. So make time to worry. And it always sounds very silly when you say it out loud, because you think, I'm worried, why would I like to make time to worry? But the research is extensive behind this and how important it is. So worry, as you've seen earlier on in that diagram, it falls into all three aspects. So anxiety, low mood, depression, stress. So anxious thoughts can be really overwhelming and disrupt your day. You can't focus on anything because you've got these worries, that rumination constantly going. So setting time aside to worry about things allows scheduled time to go through it, and then allows you to focus on other things throughout the day. Music is a good strategy to use. Hopefully we can all relate, whether it be R&B, classical. There's plenty of music up there for everyone's taste. It's an amazing tool to really uplift our mood. So I suppose I'd say create a playlist like beforehand, maybe prep in case you do feel low, because when you are low, you don't really want to be scrolling through music, you're not in the mood. So having that pre-made is a bonus. And maybe start off with soft music first with a gradual beat. It'll gradually get you into a more positive mood. But on the flip side, if you're feeling more anxious or stressed, it might do the opposite. If that fast tempo might actually make you feel a bit more anxious. So I suppose a more softer tempo would be more beneficial. I like to listen to Disney, the more slower ones. So it calms you down and interacts with the parasympathetic nervous system a bit more, lowers your heart rate, blood pressure, just gets you into a bit more of a calmer mental health and bodily state. So continued, the last three. Mindfulness, again, you've probably heard of it maybe before, but not fully understood it, or maybe you've got, or maybe it's just defined in many different ways. But again, it's got extensive research on the amazing benefits of it. And it helps you, it's definitely a skill that you might not have, and you have to learn about it, and that's okay. Sometimes I still have to make more of an effort to engage in it more than other days. And it's a skill that you learn to stay within with difficult thoughts and feelings without analysing, without avoiding, without encouraging them. You can acknowledge them and say, I know I'm having them feelings, but just not going into them too much. And it helps ground it. It's again being in the present moment instead of focusing on past regrets, future fears and things like that. And again, we mentioned Headspace and Unmind earlier on. They've got 1-minute, 5-minute videos, depending on how much time you feel like you can commit to that. Nice visual ones, and they just walk you through that grounding mindfulness techniques. So please explore them, and we'll discuss them later on in the resource and support sections. Self-compassion is a nice one that I feel like maybe isn't talked about as much, I guess. So it's defined as being kind and understanding to yourself as you would with others. Most of us would always have a sympathetic ear to family or loved ones, and always have a kind word, or maybe wouldn't be harsh, but yet we're always so quick to do that to ourselves, to be harsh, to be critical. So I think it's important to bring that around to yourself. Self-compassion has been shown to definitely reduce anxiety and depression and to improve life satisfaction as well. And by practicing both mindfulness and self-compassion, it has been it can help improve your emotional regulation skills. So, you know, being aware of those emotions and your actions and behavior on it, and then possibly resilience as well, which will impact on the recovery or your skills to respond to a stressful situation in a healthier manner, I guess. And last but not least, again, is challenging thoughts. So it's a nice phrase that this link shows. So I'm not going to click the link. It's about a 1 minute, 40 odd second video. Again, this will be in the resource document. So if you would like to request that, you can click it in your own time. But it's a nice visual representation of challenging thoughts. Unhelpful thoughts can really like impact our moods and behavior. So I think by identifying them, you know, catching them when it happens and challenging them, you know, if you have a thought where I'm useless and you think, okay, well, is it real? What is the evidence to support and go against? If someone told me I'm useless, have I done things that are useless? And really just try and figure out if it's real or not. And by doing that, having that skill, and again, it's a skill that you learn to capture and reframe those negative thoughts and turn them into more positive or alternative thoughts. You know, I'm not useless. It's just that day I had a task handed to me that I'm not really that confident in, and I had to just get support from my supervisor. That's okay. So please click that link in your own time if you feel like you want to explore that a bit further. So it's just some nice calming strategies, just a little bullet points, I guess, to capture a little bit of what we spoke on. So breathing exercises, similar to kind of grounding. It captures you in that moment if you feel a little bit anxious or very overwhelmed. It kind of just brings you into yourself and gives you something to focus on. So there's two I'd like to share, two of my favourites. So there's one called the box. So just imagine a box. So you breathe in, and then you hold, and then you breathe out, and then you hold. So you draw a box. You can do this anywhere in public. Maybe do it in your mind instead of drawing out loud, but entirely whatever you feel comfortable with. There's also the 3-1. So you breathe in a third of your capacity, and then you hold, and you breathe in 2/3 of your capacity, and then you hold, and then full capacity of your lungs, and then you breathe all the way out. Now, I don't know if you noticed, I also hand on your chest, and that's kind of it helps me feel grounded, because it's also touch. You feel it, and you also feel the rise and the fall of your chest, and it's also kind of like a self-compassion. It's like giving yourself a hug that you would a friend. So that's also a technique that you can use. Muscle relaxation, so the progressive muscle relaxation technique that we did at the start, like a body scan. Grounding, again, similar to mindfulness and breathing. It's kind of like putting you in that moment. If you make a cup of tea, maybe notice that you're boiling the kettle and pouring it in, just paying attention to that moment. And there's another technique that I like. There's 5 things that you can hear, 4 things that you can see and look around. It just engages all the senses. 3 things that you can touch, so your fingertips, feet on the floor, your back against the chair or wherever you are. 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So it really just engages all senses into that moment. Gentle stretches, again, you might find that your shoulders are tense, so round and back. You know, maybe you've noticed we've been sitting here for a while. If you want to just stretch, click your back, whatever feels comfortable. Just paying attention to your body needs. Time in nature, we've touched upon that very briefly, but you know, that could be the back garden or wherever you can access to. It can be public space, you know, parks, things like that. Laughter as well is a really fun and good one. There's laughter therapy, where you can force yourself to laugh, and then you eventually do laugh, like full belly laughs. For me personally, I don't respond well to that. I find sometimes it be a bit awkward. So I know what works well for me. I put on one of my favourite TV programmes, The Office, the US one. You know, it's comfortable. I know what it is. I know I laugh every time, and I just put that on if I feel a bit down. Connecting with others, again, that reducing loneliness and that social connectedness and network is just very vital. It doesn't have to be that you go to some, you know, your friend, family and express how you feel. It can just be sitting with them or do an activity that you like to do. And lastly, again, not least, aromatherapy. So it could be treat yourself to aromatherapy massage. So not only is it great to get a massage, but you're including the senses by having the lavender or chamomile into your skin, or scented candles, or scented bath. So the support options then, we have a few, as you can see. So anxiety, low mood and stress, as we mentioned previously, is very normal. It's a very normal human response to a lot of situations. But when it disrupts in your daily life, it might be then beneficial and helpful for you to seek advice from your GP and explore that further with them. If you live in Liverpool, there's a service called Wirral Mind. So it is for anyone, I've clarified, it's for anyone living in Liverpool despite it saying Wirral. And that allows you to access online low intensity cognitive behavioural therapy, again targeting kind of like what we talked about today, giving you the tools to self-manage and reflect on mental health and improve. Access to talking therapies, IAP services that are self-referrals. So Liverpool, Sefton, Wirral, Halton and Knowsley all have different ones. And again, in the resource, this is all on the resource page, so don't feel pressured to write it down straight away or panic writing it down. It's all in there. And each service is slightly different. So Liverpool's different to the Knowsley one. The Cheshire and Merseyside Resilience Hub, so the CMR Hub, Hub, that is the NHS staff can access that for psychological support, for general mental health. So they have a wide range, their remits, addiction, low mood, things like that, and that is for NHS staff. So there's loads of different support groups as well. So there's Mind, there's Women's WHICS, that's for women in Liverpool for poor mental health, and just kind of like, again, this is involving the social connectedness that we mentioned. Andy's Man Club is for men in not just Liverpool, actually. I'm sorry, it's they've actually got 90 groups or 90 clubs across the UK. So if you click on that, like I said, the link will be there. You can see which one's closer to you. And there's a nice one in Walton. It's called Our House. And they have a variety of groups like Knit and Natter. So you go there and you can knit and you can just have a chat. And again, that engagement with other people. There's a group that I like called Frame of Mind that's offered by a lovely man. And he offers free snooker and pool for men struggling with mental health. So you can go there and have a game and just connect with others that might be in a similar boat, really. Again, this is for NHS staff, the Luft NHS staff employees. So they offer up to 9 months of dedicated confidential support in the workplace. So the number and emails there. Samaritans, as you know, the well-known 116123 number, that's for yourself, even if you just want a listen ear to just talk about how you feel in a non-judgmental space to someone who's neutral. But they also offer NHS staff support as well, and there's a number there that's slightly different to the one you see to the generic Samaritans, and it's also there if you worry about someone else as well, so you can just ask for some advice. That's okay. The Hub of Hope, I wanted to mention this because it's an amazing tool. They have on the app, you can get it on your Android, iPhone, tablet, and they also have a website, so you can click that link again on the resource page. It allows you to search for specific support in your area. So, for example, where I live, L35, and you can put in a specific support that's of your needs, so maybe eating disorder, and it comes up with the services around it, as well as opening times and contact information. So it's great if you want to give it to someone that you're concerned about as well, for them to explore it in their own time. And lastly, very importantly as well, if you're experiencing a crisis, you can ring the Merseycare 24/7 line. 2 numbers, the Liverpool and Sefton one is, as you can see, Halton and Green there, and a slightly different number for Halton, Knowsley, St Helens and Warrington as well. So just to draw our webinar to a close, I wanted to mention about Action for Change. So hopefully this webinar has provided you with additional tools. So you've got like a wellbeing toolkit that you go to manage when stressful events happen. And it's just constantly adding to that wellbeing toolkit to handle different stressful situations that do happen. And it's important that you can self-manage your mental health. So the self-management aspects is again vital. It gives you the choice and the control over the situation. and therefore allows you to have a greater role in that recovery, in recovering from a poor mental health and over the long term as well. And prioritizing your well-being will then help change happen. And change might not be something huge or monumental. It can be very small steps, but in the right direction. And those small steps will add up to a bigger change over time. And you might not even realise it until you feel a little bit better and you think, oh, you know what, I haven't felt like that for a little while. And it's that acknowledgement that you have made progress. And it's important to know, it's not always up, it's not always down, it's up and down, and that's okay, that's normal. Again, such a normal human experience, and to give yourself credit for the progress you're making, because sometimes we can be very harsh or very critical, and it's like self-compassion as well, that you are making a change. It just might be a little bit small, and that's okay. So thank you very much. I hope you've benefited a little bit from this webinar. Any questions you might have, just feel free to write it in that Q&A box and we'll address it now. The references are there again. If you want to do some further reading, you can access that in your own time. And just a side note, if you enjoyed this session, you can become a member. So it's very simple and free, so you can do that by emailing the governors@liverpoolft.nhs.uk. You can call them there, or if you simply get your phone, iPhone, Android, have your camera and just scan that QR code, it'll come up with a link, so you can click that. And thank you very much. So any questions, I'll have a little look now. We can have a see. I'll just scroll up. Yeah, Headspace is very good. There's actually a comment I'd like to say. So NHS staff get free premium access until December, I've clarified. Now, it will, I think it's usually, I wrote it down somewhere, it's £9.99 a month or annually. So for a year, it's £49.99. Which works out even cheaper, I think. I mean, you can get them free. YouTube offers amazing snippets of grounding techniques as well. So if you don't want to pay, which is fair enough, there's alternatives that are free and easily accessible. So herbal medications as calm to ease anxiety. I suppose I'd like to clarify, I'm not a doctor, so it just depends on how you react to things. If you feel it's short term, then calms are sold in boots, in pharmacies, and that's fine as long as you take them as prescribed or as on the box. But again, if you notice that anxiety is starting to creep up and it's starting to then disrupt your daily life and daily functioning, that's when it might be beneficial to then further seek that support through a GP. Let me see. Yeah, so another question is, many of the symptoms overlap with different mental health illnesses. How do I know I'm not suffering with more than one? And as you've seen from that image, they do overlap, and it's common to maybe have anxiety with depression. They sometimes come hand in hand. And again, so the aspects are very normal human responses. And I think if you notice that it's starting to disrupt your life and making it very unpleasant, or you're not enjoying life as usual, then it is beneficial to go seek that support. And it might be that you can talk that through them and identify it a bit more with them. So next question is, what should I do if I'm worried about a friend or relative? And again, I suppose I'd flip it over to question you is, what would you do what would you like a friend or relative to do if you were feeling a bit down, feeling anxious, or stressed? I suppose my response would be to be very open and honest and approachable. To go back to the image you've seen, sometimes hopelessness and worthlessness is an experience that's experienced across all three, and just feeling isolated, not feeling like you're the only person experiencing these feelings. So going to them openly in a warm manner and saying, would you like to talk? I've maybe noticed that you've been XYZ. Is this something you want to talk about? And you can always direct them or send them an email or text if they're quite a private person, to Samaritans, where they can then be proactive and maybe when they're ready, talk to someone that's not involved maybe. Next question is it possible to come off medication for mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, or will I be on them for life? So again, I think it's important to highlight, I'm not a doctor, and these recommendations should be definitely discussed with a professional in this field. But mental health is unfortunately still stigmatized, and that is why, us as psychologists, mental health practitioners, or any caring professional role is trying to diminish that stigmatization, because again, it's normal. 1 in 6 adults have experienced anxiety and depression in the last week alone, if that doesn't express how common it is. And I think, it's okay to have them as short term. Sometimes that might be all you may need to regulate your emotions again after maybe a stressful situation, or even they've just come about naturally. And sometimes you might be on them for life, and again, that's okay. We need to normalize that. There's no embarrassment or shame in that at all. And if it was something that you wanted to seek by maybe reducing the medication that you're on, or maybe coming off it, that again, that's advisable to do that with your GP to come off them safely, if that's something that you both have agreed on together. A lot of questions. So next is people don't speak up. Let me just see if thought I missed one then. So people don't often speak up about poor mental health. Again, there's a stigmatization that can come down to. So if I suspect someone is suffering, and when asked, they assure me they are fine, how do I move forward with this? So again, I suppose it's just normalizing mental health to them, making them feel less alienated, less isolated, and less alone. It's a major thing. And sometimes some people aren't ready to seek support, and that's okay. You can't force someone to seek support if they're not ready, if they don't want it. Now that's different to if they're experiencing crisis, or there's an immediate risk to their health, so which we'll talk about in a second. But if you're concerned and it's anxiety, stress, depression, you can always just say, I'm here. Depending on your boundaries, how much you want to provide of yourself as well, because it can be emotionally draining supporting someone. Just depends on your boundaries. You can say, I'm here for when you're ready. Again, provide the links to Samaritans, the Hub of Hope, because it might be that, again, they're embarrassed by wanting to seek that close support relationship. So if they want to seek it elsewhere without other people knowing, and that's okay. And just highlight that you're there for when they're ready to reach out. Now, following on from that about the immediate risk, if you're really concerned about someone's mental health, if they're going to act on it in their crisis, it's to ring 999, ring an ambulance. If you're not there with them, you can do it while you're not there as well. You just need to give like a location as well, so the operator can know where to send out the most accurate support for the individual. So a copy of the slides, I think they are uploaded. I'm not too sure. I'm sure that we can ask the presenters on this who's helping me. But yes, I think you can access it when you're a member as well, which again is free and really easy. Again, just look on that QR code. But yeah, thank you very much. Someone did say it was an excellent session, so thank you very much, and well delivered and easy to understand, which is important because, like I said, mental health can be very complex, and you hear all these words and quite overwhelming. So I think breaking it down into just simple terms, which sometimes I understand as well, it just makes it more accessible and easier to approach. So yeah, and it looks like that's all the questions as well, but feel free if there's any more. We've only got a few minutes left, and I hope you enjoyed it and took something away from it.